Okay, I want to talk to you about quoting, paraphrasing, and summarizing. And I want to start out with something that I've noticed novice writers particularly often get confused with. It's the difference between summarizing and paraphrasing. This one is actually really easy because the term phrase is in paraphrase, and this gives you a big clue as to what paraphrasing is. To paraphrase is to restate a passage or an idea in your own words. To phrase it as you would phrase it. To summarize something, on the other hand, is to present the main points being made. And while you can summarize anything of any length, from a short passage to a large work, if you were to summarize a short passage, you'd likely come out with a paraphrase. For example, you wouldn't exactly paraphrase Star Wars. You could summarize Star Wars. A farm kid from a desert planet gets swept up in an interstellar war by trying to help two robots find their master, and then helping their master rescue a princess, and then helping the princess defeat the evil galactic empire. That's a summary of Star Wars. But how would you paraphrase Star Wars? Well, you can't, because Star Wars isn't a phrase. It's a bunch of phrases all strung together to create a story. However, you can paraphrase passages from Star Wars. The Force is an energy field created by all living things. It surrounds us, it penetrates us, and binds the galaxy together. To paraphrase Obi-Wan Kenobi, the Force is the woo-woo magic that makes the Star Wars universe work. Or, if I wanted to make it a little less snarky, I could paraphrase it like this. The Force is a kind of life force that the Jedi learned how to harness and to manipulate so they could do all kinds of cool stuff. See? I paraphrased the passage by restating it in my own words, according to my own understanding, whereas my summary tries to hit all the main points of the story. So summaries can be longer or shorter, depending on your writing situation. Paraphrases are generally short restatements of relatively short passages. But short, of course, is relative. I could paraphrase Hamlet's famous to be or not to be soliloquy, which most of us would think of as a relatively longer passage of text. But notice the important thing here. The soliloquy is still a passage of text. It's not the whole play. It's not the plot. I can paraphrase a monologue. I couldn't paraphrase the entire play or the plot of the play. I'd have to summarize it. However, because it is a relatively longer passage, I could also summarize that soliloquy. And I would do that by enumerating the main points of the soliloquy rather than just stating the gist of it in my own words, as I would do in a paraphrase. In fact, if I were to summarize the to be or not to be soliloquy from Hamlet, it might look something like this. Hamlet, having seen his father's ghost and devised a plan to catch his murderous uncle by pretending to be mad, and having just carried out that plan in a conversation with Ophelia when he caught her praying in church, he now contemplates the mystery of life and death. He wonders what might await a soul when they die, if anything, and theorizes that it is that mystery, that great unknown, that keeps people from committing suicide, because a person can't be sure if death actually ends suffering. And so Hamlet surmises people are willing to suffer all sorts of things in the flesh out of fear about what happens after death. And this not knowing makes everyone essentially cowards. Now, there's something here that I want you to notice. In this summary, there are several paraphrases of what Hamlet is saying. Indeed, every passage in my summary is essentially a paraphrase of something Hamlet says in his soliloquy. So that's how you handle being asked to summarize a longer passage of a larger work, such as a speech or a monologue. Think of your summary as a series of paraphrases of what the person said. Now you might ask yourself, so what's the difference between a summary and a synopsis? Effectively nothing. A summary gives the main points of a passage or a work. A synopsis does the same thing. Now don't get me wrong, there's slight differences between these two concepts, differences that are best understood by understanding the term's different etymologies. Summary, from Latin summa, meaning total or everything, and synopsis, from the Greek sun, meaning together, and opsis, meaning seeing, thus seeing together. So the summary presents the main parts or points of a work, while a synopsis sees how the parts fit together. But in practice, these are effectively the same thing. And the differences are largely semantic, arising from the fact that we have both the Greek and the Latin words for this activity, and we humans being what we are, we have to figure out the distinction between them, even if there aren't any really. So how does quoting fit into all of this? Well, quoting is just that, repeating the original wording of a passage with exactness. Like paraphrasing, quoting should be used with shorter passages. You can't quote an entire work in an essay. That's called plagiarism. But you can paraphrase, and you can use paraphrase, summary, and quoting together in an essay. Take my short summary of Hamlet, the to be or not to be soliloquy. I could spice it up a little bit with some direct quotes if I wanted to, like this. Hamlet, having seen his father's ghost and devised a plan to catch his murderous uncle by pretending to be mad, and having just set that plan in motion in a conversation with Ophelia, now contemplates the mystery of life and death. Indeed, that's what to be or not to be means. He suggests that this question, the mystery of what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, is the thing that keeps us mortals from just killing ourselves and ending the calamity of life and all the things that we have to suffer while in this mortal coil. Hamlet theorizes that it is this mystery, the great unknown, the undiscovered country from whose bourne no traveler returns, that keeps people from committing suicide, because no one can be sure if death actually ends suffering. And so, Hamlet surmises, people are willing to suffer all sorts of things in the flesh out of fear of the unknown, for fear of what happens after death, the not knowing that makes cowards of us all. Notice the quotes can't just be thrown in there. The reader has to be given some context. That's why before I got my summary of the soliloquy, I gave a little summary of the play up to that point to provide some context. If this was an introductory paragraph, first paragraph of longer work, I would probably have to give a little bit more detail about the play to focus my reader, but probably not much more. Summaries can be made in a very small space once you learn the skill. So if you want to know more about writing summaries, or if you want to know more about integrating quotes in your writing, I have some videos on those topics as well. Until then, remember, writing isn't magic. It's an art. You learn the skills, you'll be able to do this too. Until next time.